caring is beautiful. It is at the very heart of our nature to love, to nurture, to hope. But what happens when caring becomes clinging? When love becomes a cage? When attention becomes a burden? In today's journey, we will explore why caring too much can quietly, yet devastatingly, push people away. You will understand how your deepest instincts can betray your highest hopes, and how mastering your emotional world is the secret to holding space for connection without suffocating it. If you are new here, welcome to the Everlasting Stoic. This is a place for those who seek to forge themselves into stronger, wiser, more grounded souls. For themselves, for their loved ones, and for the world. If you find value in deep reflection and ancient wisdom applied to modern struggles, take a moment to subscribe, hit that like button, and stay with me until the end. You are among kindred spirits here. Let us now begin. 1. The hidden cost of over-attachment. It begins so subtly. A message sent a little too soon, a need to hear back, to be reassured. A slight pang of anxiety when the response does not come fast enough. It feels innocent because it is innocent. At first, caring about someone naturally invites a desire to connect, to be close. But when caring crosses the invisible threshold into over-attachment, what once felt nurturing becomes needy. What once was strength becomes fragility. At the core of over-attachment is a misunderstanding of self and others. We begin to believe that our well-being, our happiness, our sense of security resides outside of ourselves, tethered to another's presence, validation, or affection. We shift the source of our peace from our own center to the uncertain world of another's heart. And when you outsource your peace, you also outsource your power. No one, no matter how loving or patient, wants to feel responsible for another's emotional stability. At first, they may be flattered by your attentions. They may even enjoy the pedestal you place them upon. But in time, the pedestal becomes a prison. The praise becomes pressure. The expectation, spoken or silent, weighs heavier and heavier on their soul. And what once drew them close, now drives them away. The tragedy of over-attachment is that it begins with love, but often ends with loss. There is a hidden desperation in over-attachment that others can feel even if you mask it behind smiles and kind words. Humans are exquisitely attuned to emotional energy, often more so than to overt actions. The tightness in your tone, the urgency in your texts, the slight fear behind your gaze. These small signals accumulate, and unconsciously, the other person begins to feel not just wanted but needed. There is a vast difference between being wanted and being needed. One feels like a dance, the other feels like a burden. When you become overly attached, your energy shifts from offering to grasping. You are no longer giving freely. You are seeking to secure. The connection stops being about mutual exploration and starts being about personal reassurance. You are no longer sharing your light. You are trying to plug a hole inside yourself with another human being. In Stoicism, we are taught that the only true goods are virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, temperance. All else is external and ultimately outside of our control. When you place your happiness in another's hands, you are trading your birthright of internal stability for a fleeting illusion. You are giving away the very thing that would make you most attractive and most alive: your sovereignty. There is no faster way to erode respect and attraction than to communicate, even subtly, that your sense of worth is contingent upon another's presence. People may enjoy the idea of being loved. They rarely enjoy the feeling of being responsible for someone's emotional survival. This does not mean that you must be cold, aloof, or uncaring. Stoic detachment is not indifference. It is the ability to love without losing oneself, to offer without expecting, to give without grasping. True emotional strength is the quiet confidence that says, I desire your presence, but I do not require it to be whole. Ironically, this very stance of being complete in yourself is what draws people in. When you are whole, you are magnetic. When you are centered, you create space where others feel free, not trapped. When your peace is your own responsibility, your relationships cease to be negotiations of need and become celebrations of connection. You must become the tree, not the vine. The tree stands strong and welcomes the birds to nest, the travelers to rest in its shade. But it does not cling. It does not bend its will to the presence or absence of the birds. It simply stands full of life and offering. Over-attachment is born from fear. Fear of loss, fear of loneliness, fear of inadequacy. But fear is a liar. It whispers that you are not enough. It convinces you that unless you secure love by any means necessary, you will be abandoned. Yet true love, real connection, cannot be secured through fear. It is not a prize to be won, nor a possession to be kept. It is a living, breathing dynamic between two sovereign souls. When you notice yourself growing anxious about a response, about an absence, about a slight shift in energy, take a breath. Return to yourself. Ask, what within me feels threatened? What within me needs my own attention? Turn inward. Strengthen your roots. Cultivate the garden of your soul, so fully that love becomes a gift you offer, not a commodity you bargain with. Only then can you love freely, without fear. Only then can you be truly free. Now I invite you to reflect deeply. Have you ever experienced this hidden cost of over-attachment? If you feel called, share your story or realization in the comments below. Let us build a tapestry of wisdom together, woven from our shared journeys. Or, if you are ready to commit to loving from strength, affirm it by commenting, I choose to love without clinging. Let us continue. 2. When interest feels like pressure. Interest is a natural expression of connection. It is the spark that turns acquaintance into intimacy, the gentle pull that draws two souls closer. But when interest crosses an unseen threshold, when it loses its lightness and begins to carry weight, it transforms into pressure, a silent, invisible force that others instinctively resist. The human spirit, like a wild creature, yearns for freedom even within love. True intimacy does not bloom in the soil of obligation. It grows in the wide fields of choice. When your interest feels heavy, when it comes too often, too eagerly, too intensely, it stops feeling like an invitation and starts feeling like an expectation. This pressure often manifests in subtle ways. Frequent texts checking in, repeated reassurances sought, an urgency to define the relationship, a constant undercurrent of do you still care beneath every interaction. None of these acts are evil. They arise from a tender place within. Yet when stitched together, they create a tapestry that says, your affection is not a joy to me. It is a need I must constantly verify. Imagine someone standing a little too close, not threatening but persistent. Not aggressive, but insistent. Over time, their presence, once welcomed, begins to feel suffocating. Not because of who they are, but because of the unrelenting intensity of their need to be acknowledged. In the quiet mind of the Stoic, we understand that control is an illusion when it comes to others. We cannot command another's heart. We can only present ourselves as we are, calm, whole, inviting, and allow their own free will to meet us there. Anything else breeds resistance. Pressure, even the gentlest kind, invokes rebellion. It may not be loud, it may not be immediate, but it creeps into the subconscious, planting seeds of doubt. Why do I feel heavier around them? Why does talking to them feel like a duty instead of a desire? This is why detachment, true soulful detachment, is so powerful. It says, I am here if you choose to join me, but I will not collapse if you walk away. It honors the sovereignty of the other person, and in doing so, elevates your own. You must trust in your own gravity. The more you chase, the faster they flee. The more you pressure, the more they resist. But the more you stand still, rooted in your own self-worth, the more the right ones are drawn naturally into your orbit. The Stoics teach us to desire things with a reserve clause. That is, to wish for them without being enslaved by them. You can want someone deeply, but only if your joy does not hinge on their reciprocation. Anything less is a kind of emotional tyranny, both upon them and upon yourself. Reflect on your past connections. Were there moments when your eagerness might have felt like pressure to them? Are there moments now where your mind races to do more to keep them interested? If so, recognize that true connection requires breathing room, not effortful maintenance. If this idea resonates with you, share in the comments. Have you ever sensed someone pulling away because your interest became too heavy? Or perhaps you have felt pressured by someone else's intensity. Your story may help others recognize the unspoken patterns within themselves. Now, let us move deeper still. 3. Emotional overload pushes them away. There is a certain emotional economy that every human relationship abides by, whether consciously or not. Healthy bonds flow with a balanced exchange of energy. A mutual giving and receiving that feels light, natural, and nourishing. But when one person begins to pour too much emotional intensity into the relationship, the balance tips dangerously, and the relationship often collapses under the strain. Emotional overload is rarely intentional. It arises when our inner world is too loud, too chaotic, too fearful, and we attempt, without realizing it, to process our storm through another person. We overshare, we overexpress, we look to them to regulate our moods, to validate our worth, to soothe our every uncertainty. At first, the other person may try to meet these needs, especially if they care about you. But over time, the imbalance becomes unsustainable. They are not just participating in a relationship anymore. They are managing an emotional burden that was never meant to be theirs. Think of emotional energy like a river. When it flows naturally, it nourishes the land. When it floods, it destroys. Your emotions are meant to be felt, acknowledged, and owned. They are yours to navigate. When you ask someone else to bear them for you, even unconsciously, you rob both yourself and them of true freedom. The hallmark of emotional overload is disproportion. Disproportionate reactions to small events, disproportionate displays of affection or neediness, disproportionate anger, fear, sadness. When the emotional stakes feel inflated beyond the actual circumstances, people instinctively retreat to protect their own equilibrium. No one wants to feel that the ground beneath them is always shifting. No one wants to feel like the next word they speak, or the next action they take, might trigger a tidal wave. Stability is deeply attractive. Chaos, even masked as passion, eventually becomes exhausting. This is why Stoic practices, daily reflection, emotional journaling, meditative detachment, are so crucial. You must become your own sanctuary before you can ever be a sanctuary for another. You must learn to sit with your fear, your loneliness, your uncertainty, without demanding that someone else fix it. Emotional self-sufficiency is not about isolation. It is about bringing a full heart to the table, not a broken cup begging to be filled. When you are emotionally grounded, your presence becomes restful, not restless. Others feel safer around you, not because you suppress your emotions, but because you handle them with grace and responsibility. If you find yourself tempted to talk it out with someone every time you feel uneasy, pause. Ask yourself, am I sharing to connect, or am I venting to regulate? If it is the latter, turn inward first. Tend your own garden. Bring your best, not your brokenness, to the relationship. I invite you to comment with this affirmation if you choose to commit to this path. I am the calm within my own storm. Or, if you have faced moments where emotional overload pushed someone away, either yours or theirs, feel free to share your insights. Your voice could be the light that guides another traveler on this journey. Let us continue. 4. Strength is more attractive than need. Attraction, at its most primal level, is drawn to strength, not brute strength, not dominance, but the quiet, unshakable strength that radiates from a person who knows their own worth, who carries themselves with quiet confidence, who remains rooted no matter the winds of fortune or rejection. This strength is magnetic. It is the gravitational pull that draws others closer without coercion, without pleading, without fear. Need, on the other hand, repels. It is heavy, it demands, it burdens. Where strength invites curiosity, neediness invites obligation. And though people may at times feel sympathy toward need, they do not feel attraction toward it. You must understand this deeply. Strength is a signal of abundance. It says, I have within me all that I need. I choose to share my life with you, but my wholeness does not depend on you. Neediness, however, signals deficiency. It says, I am incomplete. I require you to fill the empty spaces inside me. Which of these energies feels more inviting? This is not just psychological, it is biological. Across cultures and eras, humans have been drawn to those who embody resilience, autonomy, and vitality. These traits signal safety, promise stability, and inspire admiration. Neediness, no matter how lovingly disguised, signals risk. It suggests potential entrapment in a relationship dynamic, where one must endlessly reassure, rescue, or prop up the other. In Stoicism, strength is cultivated through mastery of the self. We do not seek to control others. We seek to command our own reactions, our own desires, our own fears. In doing so, we become immovable in the face of rejection, serene in the face of loss, dignified even in solitude. To be truly attractive, you must first become enough for yourself. Your joy must be self-sourced. Your purpose must extend beyond any one relationship. Your peace must be independent of external affirmation. This is not to say you must become an island. Stoicism does not teach isolation. It teaches interdependence without dependence. It teaches connection without captivity. It teaches love as a gift freely given, not a transaction anxiously negotiated. Reflect on your own energy. When you meet someone, do you approach them from a place of abundance or scarcity? Do you offer them a glimpse into a rich, full life they might choose to join? Or do you silently seek rescue from your own loneliness? Strength whispers, you are welcome here, but I do not require you. Neediness pleads, please don't leave me. I need you to survive. The difference, though subtle, is profound. And everyone, on some deep instinctive level, can feel it. Take a moment to reflect. If you feel called, Comment below and share what strength means to you. Or if you prefer, affirm your path by writing, "I choose to be the strength that invites, not the need that demands." Let us continue. 5. Why they pull away without warning. It is one of the most bewildering experiences. Everything seems to be going well. Conversations flow, affection is shared, laughter is frequent, and then suddenly they grow distant. The warmth fades, communication slows, plans become vague, and you are left wondering, what happened? The painful truth is that people often pull away when their internal sense of freedom feels threatened. And the tragedy is, it usually happens long before they consciously realize it. Their spirit senses the shift before their mind can explain it. When you care too much, when your emotional investment outweighs the natural pacing of the relationship, you inadvertently trigger this flight response. It may not be because of anything you said directly. It may not be because of any overt act. Rather, it is the accumulation of subtle cues, the tension in your voice, the eagerness of your replies, the small sigh of relief when they text you back, the slight anxiety behind your laughter. People are highly sensitive to emotional undercurrents, even if they cannot name them. And when they sense that their autonomy is being impinged upon, even by love, they retreat to reclaim their sense of self. This withdrawal is not necessarily an indictment of you as a person. It is a protective reflex. It is an attempt to restore balance within themselves. It is their soul seeking oxygen. In such moments, the worst thing you can do is to chase harder, to demand explanations, to pour even more attention into the void. That only confirms their fear. That connection with you means losing their freedom. Instead, you must do the counterintuitive thing. You must create space. You must honor their withdrawal without resentment. You must turn your focus inward, redoubling your commitment to your own growth, your own joy, your own journey. This is the Stoic way, accepting what is beyond your control, mastering what lies within it. If they return, let it be because they are drawn to your light, not because you dragged them back into your orbit. If they do not return, then your dignity remains intact, your path undisturbed, your spirit unbroken. Sometimes, what feels like abandonment is actually liberation, an opportunity to return to your center, to cultivate deeper resilience, to love more wisely the next time. If you have ever experienced someone pulling away without warning and found wisdom in the aftermath, share your insight in the comments below. Or if you feel called, affirm your understanding by writing, "I let go with grace when others need space." Let us continue. 6. It's all about how you make them feel. We live in a world saturated with advice on what to say, how to act, what strategies to use in relationships to win favor or affection. Yet amidst all this tactical thinking, the deepest truth is often overlooked. People rarely remember exactly what you said. They remember how you made them feel. The emotional experience you create within them forms the essence of how they perceive you, how they value you, and whether they choose to remain close to you. Feelings are the invisible language of the heart. They bypass logic, analysis, and strategy. They are instant, primal, and enduring. And when you care too much in a way that generates anxiety, pressure, or heaviness, it imprints a feeling of discomfort, even if your intentions were pure. Stoicism teaches us not to be slaves to our own feelings, but it also teaches us to be deeply aware of the feelings we evoke in others. This is not manipulation, it is respect. To be attuned to the emotional landscape you create is to be wise, to be skillful in the art of human connection. When you make others feel seen, but not suffocated, they draw closer. When you make them feel appreciated, but not obligated, they invest more willingly. When you bring a sense of calm instead of urgency, of possibility instead of pressure, you become a rare oasis in a world parched by superficiality and fear. People are drawn to those who make them feel expansive, not contracted, uplifted, not burdened, free, not obligated. Every word you speak, every silence you offer, every gaze you hold or release, it all creates an emotional signature. If your presence consistently makes someone feel pressured, judged, smothered, or drained, no amount of good intentions will save the connection. You must become a master craftsman of emotional spaces. The Stoic is mindful of what he builds between himself and others. He recognizes that love cannot exist where there is fear, that connection cannot breathe where there is suffocation, that respect cannot thrive where there is control. Ask yourself often, how do they feel when they leave my presence? Do they feel lighter, calmer, more themselves? Or do they feel heavy, anxious, less free? It is not enough to be nice. It is not enough to mean well. What matters is the emotional imprint you leave. This requires emotional intelligence. It demands that you be vigilant not only about what you want to express, but about what is actually received. You must become the kind of presence that others associate with peace, vitality, and permission to be their truest selves. To do this, you must first become that presence for yourself. You must cultivate inner peace so deeply that it radiates outward. You must know your own worth so thoroughly that you do not seek constant reassurance. You must heal your own fears so they do not bleed into your connections. When you walk into a room, your energy speaks before you. Say a word. When you communicate, your unspoken emotional state weaves itself into every interaction. People pick up on the subtle textures of your being, and they respond accordingly. Become intentional about the emotional atmosphere you generate. Not through force, not through pretense, but through genuine self-mastery. Let your care be a gentle offering, not a heavy obligation. Let your love be a free river, not a dammed-up flood. Let your presence be a sanctuary, not a demand. Reflect now. What emotional space are you creating in your relationships? If you feel called, share your insight in the comments below, or affirm your intention by writing, I choose to create a space where connection breathes and grows. Let us continue. 7. Leave room for the unknown. Control is seductive. It whispers promises of safety, certainty, predictability. Especially when we care deeply, the desire to know, to secure, to guarantee becomes overwhelming. We want to know where we stand. We want to know what they feel. We want to know what tomorrow holds. Yet true connection demands that we leave room for the unknown. When you try to force clarity too soon, you violate the natural unfolding of intimacy. When you demand labels, timelines, assurances, you suffocate the living mystery that makes connection rich and real. Relationships, like all living things, grow best when they are allowed space to breathe, to evolve, to surprise. Stoicism teaches us to embrace uncertainty, to recognize that much of life and almost all of love lies beyond our control. Our task is not to wrestle certainty from the unknown, but to become strong enough to thrive within it. Leaving room for the unknown requires courage. It means sitting with the discomfort of not knowing exactly where you stand. It means resisting the urge to seek constant reassurance. It means trusting that what is meant for you will flow to you, without force, without manipulation. When you accept uncertainty, you become infinitely more attractive. You signal emotional maturity, patience, faith. You allow the other person to come toward you freely, not out of obligation or pressure, but out of genuine desire. Think of the early stages of a fire. If you hover too close, if you smother it with attention, you extinguish it. But if you feed it gently, give it air, give it space, it grows stronger, brighter, more enduring. The same is true of human connection. Leaving room for the unknown does not mean being passive. It does not mean accepting mistreatment or neglect. It means taking action when appropriate, but releasing the outcome. It means showing up fully, offering your truth, and then letting go of the need to control what happens next. This is emotional mastery, acting from love, not fear. Moving from a place of fullness, not emptiness. Allowing life to unfold, rather than trying to script every scene. When you live this way, you become unshakable. You are not devastated by shifts in another's behavior, because your worth was never dependent on their constancy. You are not shattered by ambiguity, because you have learned to find peace within yourself. Leaving room for the unknown also honors the other person's journey. It recognizes that they too are unfolding, that they too are discovering their truth. True love is not about possessing. It is about witnessing, supporting, encouraging, without shackling. It takes immense strength to wait without grasping, to care without controlling, to love without clinging. But it is this very strength that builds the foundation for connections that are deep, enduring, and real. Reflect and share. Have you struggled with the discomfort of uncertainty in relationships? What helped you embrace the unknown? Share your reflections in the comments if you feel called, or affirm your commitment by writing, "I leave room for the unknown and trust the unfolding." Let us continue. 8. Detachment creates impact. Detachment is not the absence of care. It is the height of wisdom. It is the deep, unshakable understanding that while you may love deeply, you cannot control outcomes. That while you may offer your heart fully, you must also be prepared to stand alone, with dignity and grace, in every meaningful relationship. There is an unspoken dance between closeness and distance, between intimacy and individuality. Too much grasping, and the bond suffocates. Too much distance, and it withers. True detachment is the art of moving fluidly between these poles. Never clinging, never recoiling, but always grounded in your own sense of wholeness. When you care too much in the wrong way, with fear, with desperation, with attachment, you drain the relationship of its vitality. You shift the focus from mutual growth to mutual confinement. But when you practice detached care, you breathe life into the connection. You say through your actions and your energy, "I choose you, but I do not need to possess you to be whole." This freedom is intoxicating. It invites the other person to lean in, not because they must, but because they want to. It creates space for mystery, for autonomy, for voluntary devotion. The Stoics remind us that everything external, including the affections of others, is beyond our complete control. Our duty is not to secure their love, but to be worthy of love. To cultivate virtues within ourselves that naturally inspire affection, admiration, and loyalty. Detachment enhances your impact because it shifts your energy from reactive to magnetic. Instead of chasing, you attract. Instead of pleading, you invite. Instead of demanding, you inspire. Consider the great figures of history. philosophy, and legend. Those who moved others deeply. It was not neediness that marked them. It was an inner completeness, a powerful serenity that drew others toward them like moths to a flame. You can become such a figure in your own life. Not by suppressing your emotions, but by mastering them. Not by withholding your care, but by offering it without chains. True detachment requires trust in yourself, in others, and in life itself. It requires the courage to face loss without crumbling, to face uncertainty without panic, to face rejection without self-erasure. When you cultivate this level of strength, your very presence becomes an offering. Your love becomes a gift, not a transaction. And paradoxically, by letting go of the need to control outcomes, you maximize your influence over them. People crave the company of those who offer them freedom. People long for the rare experience of being loved without being imprisoned. Be that rare soul. Reflect deeply. How can you practice more detachment in your relationships today? Share your reflections in the comments if you feel called, or affirm your commitment by writing, "I offer my love freely, without fear, without chains." Let us now move to the final chapter. Conclusion. We have traveled a long road together today. From the hidden costs of overattachment to the subtle shifts that turn caring into pressure. From the dangers of emotional overload to the quiet power of inner strength. We have seen how the feelings we create matter more than the words we say. How leaving space for the unknown nurtures real connection. And how practicing true detachment elevates both ourselves and our relationship. Caring too much when rooted in fear pushes people away. Caring wisely when rooted in strength draws them closer. The everlasting Stoic is not a person who feels less. It is a soul who feels deeply but remains sovereign. It is a being who loves without clinging, who offers without demanding, who embraces connection without forsaking self. This path is not for the faint-hearted. It requires daily discipline. It demands relentless self-honesty. It invites you to cultivate peace within so you can offer peace without. But if you walk this path, you will find that not only do you deepen your relationships, you also deepen your life. You become less reactive, more magnetic, less anxious, more grounded, less needy, more free. And in that freedom, you will find love that is richer, truer, more enduring. If you have found value in today's journey, I invite you again to subscribe to the Everlasting Stoic. Like this video to help others find it. Share your reflections in the comments. I read them all, and they are the lifeblood of our growing community of seekers. And most importantly, carry these lessons with you into the quiet moments, into the silent tests, into the invisible crucibles of daily life. That is where the real transformation happens. Until next time, walk steady, walk strong, walk free.